Pain as a way of becoming our most excellent teacher. Today I'm sitting down with Rebecca Sanchez Monquera, owner of Alchemy Massage and Movement Therapies. Rebecca's journey from childhood trauma and addiction to becoming a healing practitioner is both raw and inspiring. She combines Eastern philosophy, trauma sensitive bodywork, and yoga therapy to help people transform their deepest struggles into strength. Her approach isn't just about fixing what's broken, it's about helping people remember who they are beneath all the noise. Rebecca, welcome to the show. All right, welcome back to the Wellness Growth Show. So today we are sitting down with Rebecca Sanchez Monquera, who's the owner of Alchemy Massage and Movement Therapy. So welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you, Scott. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have such a thoughtful approach to healing. Can you take us back to the beginning and what first pulled you toward this path of massage and yoga therapy?
Um, yeah, I love that question. I was thinking about it over the past few days and realizing just how far back the journey goes for me. And it probably went to back, it probably goes back to times in my childhood where I experienced incredible anguish and powerlessness and my own healing path, seeking relief, from my own compulsions is what led me to, outsource, to for some help. And was very drawn to even as a child, very intuitively would kind of just place my hands on my own body and be able to heal. I had really horrible lactose intolerance as a child, and I would get like bone aches. It manifested in really, really different ways. They'd have to like wrap my joints and stuff if I ate dairy, and I would definitely get really upset stomach and digestion. And I could just put my hands on my own belly and it would calm it after, a while. And that was like I think in my childlike thinking, it was like, well, yeah, of course this works, you know? And now I look back and I'm like, how extraordinary that I just intuitively knew that. And so many of us have this intuitive, ability to kind of hone in. And then we're taught, like, no, no, no. So I think don't pay attention to that, right? Pay attention to what's real and physical and manifested in front of you, as opposed to something more intuitive. And so I think in my own pain and then healing process, there was always that struggle, and battle between what do I listen to? And because a lot of times listening to the own voices in my head was the source of suffering. And at the same time, I just needed different lenses, or different earphones to hear myself through, to be for those voices to be able to be intuitively healing. Um, And I remember reading a book by this woman named Mary O'Malley called The Gift of Our Compulsions. And it really opened up, uh, it spoke to the part of me that loves language and the power of word and language, and how, my apologies, and how just by a slight shift of a word can change the entire messaging and resonance of anything, really, anything. Um, and that book by Mary O'Malley really helped me even reframe, like, oh, this is a gift. How is this a gift? And what I was dealing with at the time was something called trichotillomania, which is like compulsive hair pulling. And I talk about this openly now, because these are things that used to shackle me in deep, deep shame and isolate me. And I didn't know what it was I was dealing with until I was like maybe 18 years old. And there was actually an article in the paper about it. And my world kind of blew open, because the whole time my perception of myself was that there was something so wrong with me. What was wrong with me? Um, and I feel that. I feel that from other people a lot, and I know that that messaging comes a lot from the outside, whether it's very subtle, like wear this, put this on, do this, have this scent, wear this accessory, and you will be this, this, or that, right? Change what you are. You're not good enough, not worthy. And yeah, those experiences have really been gifts. I see them as almost superpowers now. That, being hypersensitive and actually finding language for that. I remember when I first read, and it wasn't that long ago, about a word to describe what is it when people are disturbed by the sound of other people's chewing. And as a
Okay.
kid, I would go off the rails
Like if you hear
with
them
the sound.
smacking or something, or just the
Yes,
sounds.
yes, and it just compounded, it added, to this, God, I'm so wrong, I'm so wrong as a being, there's something so wrong with me. And then you just kind of add other, childhood traumas that children shouldn't go through, and every human being has trauma, right? Um, it's those things though that have really propelled me to sort of unpack and process and take responsibility for whatever's going on in here. And then through the different things I've come across, starting with like that book, and then something like The Power of or The Hidden Messages in Water. I don't know if you've read that book. You know,
Check it out.
oh, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. And forgive me, the author, for not remembering your name, because he's miraculous. He's written two of these books. But yeah, the path that I came upon, definitely, acupressure, and my teacher, Michael Reed Goff, who's now in Hawaii, but he was in Berkeley, um, learning this idea like, oh, you have anxiety. You have this soul crushing anxiety right now. You can actually, there's places in your body that you can hold on to that unlock, this sea of tranquility, right? We have a sea of tranquility in our body. So the language, the way that a lot of the Chinese names that are so poetic and so powerful, are translated to English. And mind you, I'm learning everything translated. I don't speak Mandarin or Cantonese, and I don't read it either. So I'm definitely getting just a limited slice. But what I do have has changed my life so profoundly and really helped me turn things around from, somebody who was really suicidal for a long time, and now can talk about those things. And through talking about those things, um, it really empowers other people to talk about them and own them, and then not give them as much power, so that I can really transmute or alchemize, hence the name of my business. I can alchemize that into something compostable, something useful,
How did alchemy massage movement therapy come to life?
with a lot of bumps and starts, a lot of kind of, you can imagine a person with their eyes closed, kind of crashing into walls in different directions, but still trying to find a way.
Yeah.
Um, and I initially started, when we had spoken before, I talked about how, um, it was the physical practice of asana and the 8 limbs of yoga that really helped me, because I had gotten into a car crash and my body completely froze up. And all I could move was my eyes for like a full 24 hours. My body just had this, trauma response to the accident, and just to protect, right? And I was so baffled by that. It's like, oh my God. And then my body loosened up, the tissues loosened up, and I had to begin doing something so that I wasn't in pain. And experiences like that over and over again, when I'm sure in my esoteric readings, I came across something that talked about alchemy. And I was like, that's exactly what I experience, what we as humans experience, right? What the universe, what energy and matter experiences. And it really spoke to me in a way. I think I had one time this physicist contact me and ask me if like my work was science based because of the name. But it definitely comes from transforming our stresses, our suffering, our traumas, our blockages into strength or into something that's usable. Immutable laws of the universe with energy, right? Energy cannot be um, banished or extinguished or gotten rid of or excised. It can only be transformed. It's anything that ever happened is still happening in a different way. So that's it still speaks to me really strongly. I mean, this is my little swag for my business, Healing Alchemist. So
Would you say was like the vision
when I first launched, it was big, and this is like pre, I think MySpace existed at the time.
Wow,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, it was big. It was like grandiose. I was going to take the world by storm and help all the other people that were suffering like I was suffering and give them hope. And here's keys to the kingdom of your own healing majesty inside of yourself. And, very grandiose, very, very grandiose. Um, and, you know, thank God for the gift of my compulsions. I think around that time, I started spiraling the drain in my own substance abuse addiction. And so things kind of got r- derailed. And still, I was doing this work. Um, and I think it just informed it more. It made it more recovering from substance abuse, from addiction. And I'll always be in recovery from it, right? As long as I'm alive. Once an addict, always an addict for me. But it's been something that's really, really informed the work that I do in such a profound way. So it kind of came through in bumps and starts, really, a lot of thorns and bruises on alchemy massage and movement therapy. Um, and I did it part time for a long time while I was doing medical social work or working in fashion or doing, working with chiropractors. And then decided to just, you know what, I'm just going to take a chance and do this full time. So, yeah, now I've been in the current place that I'm at, seeing clients in a studio for like 6, going on 7 years now. But my practice has existed for about 20. Yeah.
So you speak beautifully about bringing people back to themselves. What does that look like in a session? Maybe like what's your process for meeting someone where they are emotionally, physically, or energetically?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question because it also brings to mind a lot of the boundaries that I have because I'm not, what's outside of the scope of my practice is actually not dealing with a lot of what's going on in here. Like people will come and share a lot. And so there's a lot of gentle redirecting on my part. Um, and I think it takes for me to create that sort of container, a safe place. It takes me doing the work with myself, so that I can show up and not experience transference, of energy, walk out with my neck all tweaked or something.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do is I use different elements, right? So I use binaural music. I use, color. So the color of my studio is a very calming color. Um, I use a little bit of aromatherapy for people that aren't sense sensitive. People already know when they're coming to me that my work, I describe it as like trauma sensitive intuitive touch. And so a lot of people know that when they're coming to see me specifically for that. They might have complex PTSD or something. And so there are questions I ask people on an intake, a new client intake. And some of those are directed at like, how can I create a space for you? Like, what are your boundaries? What gender pronoun do you prefer? Yeah, I take cues from the language that people use to describe themselves. Um, and and I listen. And I know very well that I don't have to fix or cure anybody, right? I'm just there to be a witness and almost like a channel, and that
So
helps a lot.
you combine Eastern philosophy, bodywork, yoga, and trauma-informed care. Like, how do these modalities inform your treatment style, especially like with complex cases or chronic tension?
Yeah, so a lot of it in doing trauma sensitive work, and I've actually gone from using informed to sensitive. Formed sounded to me, I don't know if I have the right words for it. It sounded more colonial, Western, patriarchal. And so I changed it to sensitive in terms of how I describe it in my work. And it's really about talking through like, this is what we're going to do. This is what the session's going to look like, every aspect of it. You know, these are things I ask of you. Um, in terms of meeting me halfway, communicating what you need. That's totally okay. It's not an interruption. It's actually a really important part of the session to ask for what you need. Um, say, I had a client that would have a lot of emotional outbursts in sessions, So, okay, what do you want me to do when that happens? Do you want me to continue working? Would you like me to remain still with my hands where I'm at? Do you want me to take my hands off of you? Do you want me to offer you something? Usually that interrupts what's happening, and it's a good idea to just let something come out.
Yeah, it gives them a comfortable space too for
Mhm,
in the future too when they come back that you're aware of it and you're
mhm.
wanting to help them with that.
Yeah, nothing's really like a big deal. I think I've been working with bodies for so long that all I ask is that people come bathed.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Tip to make sure you take a shower, a bath before you go get a
Yeah,
massage.
like, don't go for a
Yeah,
rigorous hike and then come in sweaty.
right.
But hey, I've worked with people like that too, so
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Did I answer your question a little bit? I think
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I think so. I mean, I like that you brought that up too of just creating that space where it's like let me know, speak to me. It's okay. Inform me, tell me that
Mhm.
if there's anything, especially it's like if you go in and you've got a specific area that you need work on too. It's kind of like, I've been to places where it's like you circle something and sometimes you go in and there's none of that. There's none of that conversation. And you're like, actually, I'm hurting here. And a lot of times, or sometimes that person already even catches it and like, you got something going on here. But I think that's important.
One other thing I will say is that a lot of us, I know I have done this in the past. I'll walk into any sort of healing session with expectations, whether they're acknowledged or not. And so I really try to just directly ask people, what are your expectations? And then to respond to those, because I was like, okay, we have one 70-minute hour. I do a 70-minute hour as someone who's been in therapy her whole life. The 50-minute hour really grates my nerves. That whole 50-minute hour, just I'm like, what are you gaslighting me? There's 60 minutes in an hour, minute hour. So that I offer a 70-minute hour. But we have this time. What do you want to walk out with? And a lot of times I think the greatest thing that comes up is that people don't know. They don't know what they want or what they need. And so then I've gotten to come up with different types of language, you know, using, oh, would you like something more rigorous and grounding? Like, are we going to start the session with some Tui Na, which is traditional Chinese massage and is very, it's kind of like rigorous but grounding. There's a lot of movement to it, you know. Are you feeling like you need to be held more? Would you like more of a craniosacral acupressure neurovascular release? And so it's a lot of it is explaining the modality and then what it can offer somebody.
Yeah, I think that's important too that you're educating them too, and just like some different things, even when they come back, trying something different, right? It's like they didn't know. So for those not familiar, what role does movement, especially like yoga based or intuitive movement, play in your massage therapy?
Well, usually I started out my business offering people when I would see them, we do a session on the table, and then I would offer them a few different Acu-Yoga postures. So Acu-Yoga being this technique developed by Michael Reed Goff, and it's kind of marrying, overlapping the 8 limbs of yoga, mostly asana and pranayama, so the controlled breathing and postures, with acupressure, right, which is traditional Chinese healing. And so you're basically holding different, you're working with organ meridians in extraordinary channels and holding different points in different postures. Now, a lot of these yogis 5,000 years back, they already knew about these meridians. They just had different words for them. And so there are a lot of postures already that where you're holding points, just by virtue of doing the posture, you know, putting weight on your hands or whatever. So I used to offer people, oh, well, based on what you're dealing with in your body, here's 2 postures that would be helpful for you know, to take home with you. So the idea is that
Never
like,
hear about that. That's awesome.
yeah, so I started out doing that and now I offer like physical therapy using um functional movement, acu-yoga, pranayam, um mat Pilates, a lot of pelvic floor activation, meditation techniques. Um, and I just encourage people to invite in 1 or 2 things into their into their day, you know.
Great.
So
So you had
and then I'm practicing it when I work on them, right?
Yeah. You had mentioned before wanting to serve your community in a culturally relevant and affirming way. Can you share more about what that means in practice, whether through language or accessibility or even the emotional space that you create?
Yeah, thank you. A big part of that, I think, is acknowledging that these traditions that I practice have incredible, complex, and beautiful lineages that are not mine, right? I am not Indian and I am not Chinese, and these are not my cultural lineages. Um, they are mine, quote unquote, in the sense of like they have saved my life and I revere them deeply, you know, and I revere the, you know, ancestors that did all the work to give us what we have today and those areas of healing. And then they're so scientific. They're just incredible. So I definitely acknowledge that aspect of it, of the work that I do. And then I also when I do get to work with like the Latino community, I offer classes in Spanish, or I've done places where there's someone speaking in English and I'm interpreting in Spanish, and there's somebody else interpreting in Mom, which is an indigenous language from Mexico and Guatemala. So, yeah,
Come
I mean,
together in the community.
yeah, yeah. And I've been invited to, join different collectives, which has been such an honor. And for me, kind of the pinnacle of my career it's not been like cashing in on $1 million contract with Google, but rather being invited into these healing collectives that are like other, um, Black, Indigenous, people of color healers that do a lot of work in the community, or with like first responder type community work that I don't do, but invited to join so that I can partake and offer.
It's like fun.
And yeah, and then in working with clients, for instance, I do a lot of work with LGBTQ plus community. And so a lot of my business is fueled by word of mouth. And so I am, a queer friendly business. That is one of my communities. And so, um, yeah, if people want to use different pronouns. I've had a lot of people come in after they have top surgery, and so, um, just being sensitive and compassionate and loving with whatever people are holding in that way as well.
For sharing that. All right. So if someone's listening who's curious about integrating more safe, what's one maybe even like sort of slight shift they could start with today?
Hmm, probably a pause. Yeah, taking a moment and pausing and
Just
stopping.
breathe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, awareness and a pause are always really powerful conduits. Like, they're portals for really, um, kind of motivating and inviting in more more of that. So, like, if I, can bring awareness to the fact that, like, "Oh, wow, I'm having the impulse to pick up my phone every time I'm having overwhelming feelings or overwhelming thoughts." So if I can just bring awareness to that, and then be aware also that, oh, there's a lot of judgment in my mind around that. Interesting. Can I invite in some curiosity around something that typically I might be causing myself suffering around? Or can I, when I wake up in the morning, take 2 deep breaths while lying in bed awake, and then sit up on the edge of the bed with my feet on the floor and take 2 more deep breaths, and then stand and do the same thing, and then proceed with the day.
Slow down in such a busy life. Take
Yeah,
recognition, right?
yeah.
To
And
be
it's not
aware. I
anything
like
like
that.
you don't have to rearrange your entire,
Schedule
day
or
and schedule.
work.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. It's like, oh, you're going to the bathroom at work. Maybe when you close that bathroom stall, you just take a deep breath. You let go and just feel the feet on the floor, and feel the head kind of like floating in the cranial sacral fluid at the top of the spine.
Good, okay. Well, this has been very insightful. I appreciate you sharing. Can you tell people how they can connect with you?
Yeah, I'm actually not on social media currently. And I do have a YouTube channel, which is, what is it? Alchemy Healing on YouTube. I have a link to it on my website. So the best way to get a hold of me is my website, which is alchemyhealing.net. And you can email me from there and reach me by phone from there. And I do have a link to my YouTube channel there. But yeah, part of my own mental health practice is to not be on social media the past few years, and it's been really helpful.
Amazing how much time you get back in your day, right?
Well, and serenity in my mind.
Yeah. Yes, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining me on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. What a wonderful experience. And all of the
Absolutely.
questions that you posed are just so compelling, and I'm really, really grateful for your insight.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Wellness Growth Show. If today's conversation sparked something for you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the stories, strategies, and insights from the front lines of wellness innovation. If you're a founder, operator, or health leader exploring growth into institutional markets and have a story worth telling, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out directly on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you found this valuable, share it with a peer or post it online. You never know who needs to hear it. Until next time, stay well, keep moving, and keep building what matters.